Hello and welcome to Set Talks, the podcast that helps you navigate and connect with the Colorado film scene. I'm your host, Nick Fiorella, and today we're chatting with Billy Jack and Justin Cole, two of the filmmakers behind Colorado-based Sparrow Street Films, along with producer Kara Lane. They have quickly made a name for themselves by producing two feature films back-to-back, which is amazing, Sparrow Street and the Silicant. In this episode, we break down how the company started, what they learned making their first features, and their recent trip to the American film market in LA, which I'm super excited to talk about, including what AFM revealed about today's distribution landscape and what indie writer-directors need to understand about producing and selling a film, which, I can't wait to dive into that. We'll also talk about the momentum of the Colorado film scene from your guys' perspective as, launching your company and whatnot. And then, from the recent FAMCO event to Sundance coming to Boulder in 2027, and ultimately what's next for Sparrow Street Films. Billy, Justin, welcome to the show. I really appreciate you guys coming on to chat through this stuff.
Nick, thank you. Yeah, and thank you for what you do and what you're doing with your podcast. I think it's amazing.
Oh, cool. Yeah, no worries. I always tell people I would have this conversation over a beer anyway.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm stoked to, and I hope it's helpful for people to reference this.
And Nick, is there a beer?
Actually, we should do that, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
I guess I don't know if they would let us do that here, but at some point I want to get to that place where it's like real chill, and it's just like hanging out,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. How are you guys? How's your week going? We just had Thanksgiving.
Yeah, just had Thanksgiving. I just got back. Obviously the film market was 3 weeks ago, and then right when we got back, I immediately had to get ready for a trip with my family for Thanksgiving. So just getting back from that. So now it's just getting all of our notes and next steps for what we accomplished at AFM and what we're doing next as we lead into the new year.
That's cool. Yeah, I bet you guys took a bunch of notes, and now you're kind of game planning next steps, following up on leads and whatnot. I would imagine.
100%.
That's
Cool.
right. That's exactly where the time is spent right now.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
How about you, Justin? What have you been up to? How's your Thanksgiving?
Well, let's see. So I ended up taking largely several days to just relax around the house, do some work around the house, do some work for Sparrow Street Films, have some turkey along the way.
Yes.
Watch a little football. It was nice. It was a really great staycation. And now we're right back into getting ready for the holidays.
Yeah, totally. I'm in the same boat. Yeah, I kind of just chilled out, and
Yeah.
we did Thanksgiving here, which was nice. And I'm from Ohio, and my wife's from Florida, so usually we'll take a trip. But this year we just did like a Friendsgiving and stuff here, which was nice. Yeah. But let's dive into this. So let's start at the beginning. How did you guys come together to form Sparrow Street Films, and what was the moment that you kind of knew this needed to be a real production company to, move forward? Mm-hmm. So essentially, how'd you guys launch the company, and then what were kind of some of those first milestones?
Mm-hmm. Justin, go ahead.
Yeah, well, it seems forever ago, but right around, I'd say about 2017, 2018, Kara, our other partner, and I were working together at a middle school. I was a school administrator. She was a teacher. Someone in the system did some digging and found this clip of some old film that I used to do back in the day. I was a professional actor and writer. I made a film back in 1997, and we filmed it in Super 16. Converted it to digital, edited there, converted it back to film, did a
Awesome.
premiere in film. So this was sitting on a shelf somewhere, and somebody inside the organization found it, and then it just went like wildfire through the school. Look at what Justin is doing. And so Kara thought it was a hoot, and she's like, I got to tell you something. My husband, Billy, this is his dream. He wants to do it. I'm like, oh my gosh. That was a whole lifetime ago, 2 lifetimes ago. I can guarantee you it wasn't recent. And I'm like, can we bring this back, this old dream, this old hat?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think, let me talk to Billy. Let's see what we got. But yeah, I could probably help Billy realize that dream.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we met at my house
shortly after.
Yeah, shortly after, met at the house. I remember it like it was yesterday, sitting at the dining room table and talking about this company, this vision that we had, and chasing this dream of filmmaking has always been something I wanted to do. But as we all know, life can get in the way and things happen. But my heart was still there, and so I wanted to follow that. And we sat down and talked about the company. Didn't really have a name for it at the time, but what we wanted to do, and we were very clear in what our passions were. We're older in age, and so we'd been around the corporate block, the workforce block for a while, and so we both work in education as well. And so knowing what we do know and what we knew at the time, we said, hey, this is an opportunity that we probably should take advantage of and do. And so 2018, when all this first came to fruition, and so what happened next was the pandemic.
Sure.
So we started working on a story right away, but what we didn't realize was that the pandemic, with this ominous threat, the early days of COVID, right?
Yeah.
People didn't know what was going on, and so we had this ominous threat outside. We had food shortages. We had people panicking, almost like in a survival mode, if you will. Well, the story that we were writing was basically that story, and these themes had very similar themes resonating through it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It was originally titled Green Grass, and there are metaphorical reasons for that. If you watch this film, hopefully you'll be able to do that soon. But when we did a test screening, lots of praise for the film, some criticisms, but lots of praise. This new concept, this new idea, we called it environmental horror. Really, it's kind of reverse anthropomorphism, a reverse fable, really pushing into some really avant-garde and creative expression for horror. It was the name Green Grass that really wasn't resonating for our audience, and they unanimously chose at the test screening that the title of the story should be called Sparrow Street. By that point, we had already been named Sparrow Street Films, and it was I think a good homage to our first film as an expression.
Totally.
It all still stays within this theme of environmentalism and in the horror of being human compared to other animals on the earth. The reality is that it really worked, and that's how we came up with the title, Sparrow Street, for that first film.
And that is ultimately kind of the identity or the tone of the production company, is to focus on environmental horror, correct? And
yes, and we definitely focus on environmental horror with our first two films. The third, fourth, and fifth film, we're stepping outside of that box, if you will, and exploring some others. And that's based on just our own growth in the industry and the stories we want to tell and we feel like we need to tell. Also feedback that we see, from the market or from what, audiences are kind of wanting nowadays. But again, it's really stories we want to tell and that are inside of us that want to come out.
That's cool, yeah.
Yes, the first two deal with environmental horror, very much so. Like Justin said, the first one is like this reverse fable. Our second one has these hidden Easter eggs, if you will, that kind of, again, deals with it does deal with environmental horror.
Okay.
But films 3, 4, and 5, we're stepping out of that. The third film is a gothic horror. Depending on which one is fourth or fifth, we've got kind of a zombie-esque type film coming, and then also a religious, psychological horror.
With some cannibalism that needs to be thrown in.
Some cannibalism, yes.
Lots of horrific ideas that we're exploring. Well, and just to define what that first and second film look like for us, that first film had Kara, Billy, and me as the initial producers, but then we brought on Jay and Annalise, some partners from Washington State, to help us complete the film. And that was a really wonderful experience. Billy, it was his first time directing.
Oh, cool.
And I was the writer, the screenwriter for that film. The second film, we just kind of narrowed it down to Billy, Kara, and me as executive producers. Once again, Billy directed. I wrote the script again. This second film is called The Silicant. Still follows some of the same similar themes of environmental horror, isolation, and destitution, but it has a much different approach. And yeah.
Love it. Is it
Yeah.
so? You guys kind of want to focus on horror, you think, or at least at the moment?
Yeah, I mean,
With your production.
That's a great question. We definitely are focused on horror. That'll always be, I think, our foundation. But we're already working on stuff that deals outside of horror.
Okay.
Just because, again, we have these stories we want to tell, and so I think horror will always be our baby, and will always be things that we resonate and do. And if you look at our slate and our portfolio of stuff that we have, it's definitely heavy on the horror and thriller side.
That's awesome.
But we do
I
have some
love it.
additional things, and some of that is episodic and deals in television. Some of it is still in the narrative space, and so we're exploring a lot of different options. Mhm.
That's cool. Well, as far as you've got the 2 feature films under your guys' belt, and a number of other projects on the way. I mean, do you have any kind of lessons learned or things that you identified through the process on the first 2 go-arounds that you're taking into these next projects?
Yeah, for me, I mean, the first film was my film school, and so there were many lessons learned for sure. One major lesson, and I think I have 2 for sure, but one was, when you're in that moment, you've got everything set up, the lights are there, the actors are there, but everything's in that moment. Everybody's telling you, we got to hurry, we got to get to the next shot, we need to get going, we're running out of time.
Sure.
If you need that coverage, take the time, get that coverage right. It's so important to just have those extra few minutes. Everything's there, and so that you're not worried about that or see this, these hiccups or these missing pieces in post to where you have to come back and reshoot and have these pickups.
Totally.
Because that's just a lot for everybody. Things can happen.
Yeah.
Actors can look different.
Sure.
Budgets may not support it. Location, all the above. So
Yeah.
in the moment, I highly suggest if you're there already, like take the time to get that coverage. And let's see. And then second is, transitions. Always be thinking about the edit, and that's something.
Totally.
That was a learning process for me. Again, first film being film school, but that second film, starting to have that mindset of thinking about the edit, because when you're, again, in pre-production, having that extra time in pre-production, if your budget allows, to think about the transition in of a scene and then that transition out of that scene to make sure you have all that so it flows. Again, so you're not caught in post with, oh no, I've got all these issues with from one scene to the next and how it jumps, and it's not a smooth transition.
Sure.
And so taking that time to make sure you're mapping that stuff out.
I don't think I've had a single time where when I did push for hang on, let's try to get that, it always ended up being better for it,
Yeah.
obviously, and obviously more coverage is always good and stuff. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How about you? Anything on your end,
Yeah,
kind of from a producer standpoint?
Yeah, I have one as a producer and one as a writer. The one as a writer is actually pretty basic, which is as you're crafting your story and doing the writing, if something is problematic on the page, you must address it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be addressed in the flow of what you're writing, but it does have to be addressed before the next draft or the next revision.
Sure.
Certainly before you do your table read, it would be great if you can address those things. Pushing it to rehearsals, pushing it to a director or to solve the problem, or to an actor to work it out in rehearsal, or even worse, pushing it to post is very problematic. But if you know it's a problem there in the beginning, it is okay, and you must persist to get that fixed and corrected, because there just won't be enough of a more earnest way for a writer to be able to dig in and fix the scruples that are driving that raised concern. And I would say that if you're a writer, you're always aware of those concerns. If you are writing your script and you are not hitting these moments of reflection, you're probably writing too fast or in a vacuum. So that would be what I would say about that.
Sure.
As a business person, taking and it is kind of what Billy was saying, taking the time. So as a producer, taking our time to find the right person, to find the right cast member, to put the right person on crew is so crucial. Being so driven to get into pre-production or to production, and skipping some critical steps means that you're going to make some sacrifices in who you put and surround yourself with that is going to show and represent in the final work. There's just no question about it. It's going to take time, and it's going to take time for us, we realize, to surround ourselves with those key people who are absolutely crucial to making the set function and the set work and to bring those creatives to life. And taking your time with that is absolutely essential. You know, Mike Schur, who is world-class television producer, creator of Parks and Rec, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, you know, he has a mantra on set is we don't want any assholes on set. The reality is that you don't know if you're going to have an asshole on set if you don't put your due diligence into who you're hiring and who you surround yourself with. Totally. I want to bring everybody into our productions. You're going to hear us talk about this a little bit later, but I want to bring everybody in. I want to get everybody an opportunity. But the reality is you have to have a cut of professionalism in order to make and drive good results on set. Otherwise, you will be hampered as a business person, as a business leader, as a producer, as a director. You're going to be burdened with people who are bringing down the momentum on the set and really cutting into those critical, let's take an extra shot times, because their egos or their proclivities or their moods or tendencies need to be addressed. Not that you don't overlook those concerns when someone's working with you, but the reality is you want to surround yourself with people who you trust and people who matter on your set.
Mm-hmm. I 100% agree, and I always talk about that. The vibe on set is so important. I mean, I don't know. Is there anything that, like, I mean, as a director, I think it's important to, you know, in some cases, like a manager, kind of set the tone, you know, but you don't want to call people out either. You know, sometimes that can be a hard conversation to have, is like, hey, like, you know, we don't want egos on this set. We all want to support each other. You know, I don't know. Do you have any kind of approaches, or like, now that you've gone through it, like ways maybe you'd approach it differently in terms of making sure that it is a good vibe?
Right.
Because, yeah, that's how you're going to get, you know, the best out of everyone on set, is if they're, feeling supported, but also sometimes, setting the expectation for no egos. We're all here to support each other. We're all here to do the same thing. This should be fun at the end of the day. And ultimately, that energy is going to lead to a better film, typically.
Yeah, I think in pre-production and even before pre-production starts, you know, let's take our second film, because we brought in a lot of the same cast and crew, which we'd already worked with from our first film, so we had that rapport, right, and had that relationship. So they knew us, knew how we worked, we knew how they worked, etc. Had that symbiotic relationship where we all benefited from each other by working together. But you know, I like to spend time with cast and crew just to get to know them if I haven't worked with them. I'm thankful my education's in psychology, so I just feel, and again, maybe that's helped just when I approach and talk to people. Probably, I love talking to people and getting to know them anyway. And so I think just through that relationship building, and we do some of those exercises too, right, where we're just getting to know each other. Whether that's having a luncheon or, you know, playing a game to do relationship building exercises, having that meeting at the beginning to talk about how the set's going to go. I'm a very collaborative person, so I want to hear feedback, because again, you might be in that moment and you've done all this pre-production work and you've got your shot list and everything's there for the day. But in that moment, you might miss and not see something that somebody else does, and they're like, hey, maybe you do need that medium shot or whatever. Yeah. And in that moment, you're like, you know, you're absolutely right. That's amazing. And having not allowed somebody to have that voice and not giving them that opportunity to speak up, you may have missed it. For sure. And so I think that's important to me as a young filmmaker, is to, whether I'm sitting in the director's chair or I'm wearing the producer hat or whatever my involvement is on set, is to be collaborative and to, you know, get to know the person beside me and on the side, and my left side and my right side, and to be have that open dialogue.
I 100% agree. Yeah, I'm that way too. I'm very like wanting people's ideas, and usually I'll describe it as like, I do want everyone's ideas. If we are running out of time, or if we really need to move on, or there's some sort of logistical thing, we might have to move on. It's not that I don't appreciate the idea, but there could be something like that going on. But ultimately, I do want. It's going to be a better film because they're going to come up with stuff that I didn't. That ultimately will make it a better movie. I think it's still important to plan it enough that it's like, all right, we at least have a good movie in my mind. But I'm always referencing. I kind of approach it more as a manager than like the director's vision. It's like I'm not really precious about that. I do think it is about like empowering the team to get a good result.
And just being that natural leader, to your point, you got to know when's enough's enough, right? Because if you've got 20 cooks in the kitchen, that can get overwhelming. So you got to kind of pick and choose the battles. But again, that relationship, as you get to know the cast and crew, I think that just kind of comes naturally. Like you get a feel for what is good advice. It's yes, I need to do that, or what's like, hey, I love that, but we got to move on, and maybe even note that because could be something down the road that you maybe incorporate into another shot.
Well,
for sure.
And it should be noted that people love Billy. They love working for Billy. He's very accessible. I think that sometimes I can be the hard one who is more matter of fact or driving more of the financial or business decisions in terms of some of those difficult conversations that have to be had. But that's good. You want your director to have rapport with every department, and you want your director to have the trust earned with the actors that they can relax and go with the vision that the director wants. So I'm glad to always take some of that heat off of him so that he can flourish in that environment. And I would say on both film projects, that was one consistent that remained, is that people really felt they could trust Billy. And there we go. That was a space we created, safe space.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
But if there is a note or a direction, right, to the actor, I like to just pull them aside and, just so it's just the actor and myself talking. There's no need for everybody to hear the note or the direction, whatever. And so I'm not going to yell it from across the room because having taken acting classes, like I understand the vulnerability that they're already in as an actor in that moment. So I feel like that's just one note, to any directors out there to just keep in mind to just, if you do that, it helps build that trust. And, I think that's just a good little thing to note.
Oh, I really love that, actually. Yeah, it's just kind of making the notes a little more personal.
Sure.
That's a really good point. I'm usually kind of excited and I'm off camera going, oh, that was good. Maybe let's try to see where this goes, or whatever. But I like that. That's a good point. And it would build kind of a more, build that trust and kind of feel like a little bit more that you guys are like crafting it together, if it's more personal like that. I like that.
Yeah, I feel like that's exactly what happens in that moment. And if it's the whole team that you need to give direction to, then it's just, again, there's no need for everybody else that's behind the camera to hear everything. So
Right. Well, I was going to ask, do you guys have any, and I've never directed a feature film, so I'm a first-time director, I suppose. Do you have any, advice or key pieces of advice, anyway, for a first-time director of a feature film?
Ask directors that have done this or ask other filmmakers. I mean, I love talking with seasoned filmmakers. I look at the podcast and the people that you've had on your podcast and your show. Those are people I look up to, and those are people that I respect in the industry. People that have helped us in our 5 years of being part of Sparrow Street Films, that helped us get going, and we work together in collaboration with. And so I have no problems, reaching out and asking help or advice, or if I have a question, to reach out to those guys at any time, and to really listen to what they're saying, because they've been down the road. They've experienced X, Y, and Z. Also, I didn't go to film school, and so I've taken a few classes with the Sundance collaboration. I think it's a good program. Personally, I think it's a good program. And so I did take a directing class with Sundance. And I've taken a few other classes as well. One was on acting and one was script writing. But those classes are, I think, very beneficial. They're affordable, and the teachers are great. It's all online, so you can do it, at your leisure. And they're very receptive to any questions you have. And then you get to meet other people in the class and just, to get to know them from wherever they are and their walk in life and where they're at in their filmmaking career. And
That's
so
cool.
to have that connection as well. So
How would people find that?
You
like
just go to Sundance, and you'll see Sundance Collaboration. You can probably even Google SundanceCollaboration.com, and it'll come up as well. But
I'll include
Google
that in the
it.
description, the link to it. I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
and
I've heard that like Sundance, and maybe because they're coming here to Boulder in 2027, which we'll get to later. But I remember hearing something. There was like some filmmaker workshop or something, and I applied to it. I sent them my absurd exorcism film that I made.
Oh, cool.
And I, of course, did not get it, and it's pretty ridiculous. So I don't know if that's the tone of what they're looking for, but I didn't know that they had like a bunch of options for classes and stuff.
They do.
I'll have to look into that.
They offer a lot of different things. Just depends on where are you in your filmmaking career. What is it you're passionate about? They probably have something as a class that they offer.
Oh, I'll look into that.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. How about you? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
would
getting into their first film, or even as a producer.
That's right. That's where that producer hat comes in. I would say, once you have your script in a version that you would want to share, you've got to surround yourself, I think, with some of the sharpest and best minds that you can get to work on it. And so, what you need is a shark of a producer who can get in there and help you realize that dream. So I would say that after you have your script in hand, ready to go, you think it's ready, and you want to start directing it, get yourself a producer who is going to be your champion and be right there with you, and someone who can clear the decks so that you can get on there and you can make your mistakes and surround you with the people who can support you and build you up rather than tear you down. I think that is absolutely the next first step in that process, is getting a producer who is right there with you every step of the way.
No, totally, yeah.
And I did have an example. We have made a really great new strong contact that we met at AFM. He is a screenwriter and a director and a producer, and he's doing a lot of really great and innovative work in the horror space in LA. He's staying inside of the independent frame, which is really crucial, and he's working with some named celebrities. Over the holidays, I had a chance to watch one of his films, and I could see where he was getting to know him. I kind of understood his personality a little bit, but where he was wanting to take and make really bold statements with his directing. And I can see that a really great, strong, and supportive producer, line producer, and production manager can give you the means and the structures to really stretch yourself as a director. So I can't wait to talk to him again, where I think we're going to be meeting with him in the next week or so. He really wants to work with us. We're going to collaborate, that's for sure. But the reality is that my message to him is, when you go to a place as a director, you really have to have the right kind of supports around you to be able to do that. And I think that is mission number one of an outstanding producer, is to be able to do that kind of work in collaboration with the director.
For sure. Cool. Well, on that note, let's get into the American film market. So, you guys just got back from it. It's out in LA. First off, can you just tell people kind of what it is that don't know?
Yeah. It's a market.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I've got to repeat this, and I'll give Billy's perspective on this too. It is a market, and what do you do at market? You buy and sell wares, and we didn't know what we didn't know our first time going, and that would have been in 2024. It was in Las Vegas. We went there. We made the right connections. praise the Lord, we made the right connections when we were there, so we could go back our second time and exhibit, have our own room and space, and really roll up our sleeves and just pound out the most tremendous meetings and collaborative sessions, one right after the other, where people were coming to us, creating that space. That's costly. It's time consuming. We prepped a lot, but to be fair, what the American film market is above all else is a market for independent films to be finding their life, and people from all over the world come to this market ready to buy films and to sell films. And so the reason I say that is because you get lost in, when you go, you can get lost in the romance of it. Now being it back to LA, like we're in Beverly Hills, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're in Beverly Hills, and we've got celebrities left and right bouncing around, but you've got to stay focused. Are you a buyer or a seller? Mm-hmm. And if you're going there in that capacity, you're going to be fine. Now, let's say you are going without something to sell quite yet, right. Then you are sampling your work to see how it resonates and builds in market. Yeah. So in 24, Billy and I went to the one in Las Vegas. It had a sharp departure from Santa Monica, which it had been in Santa Monica for years and years. They wanted to test something new, went to Vegas, and we were there. But the reality is we were sampling a few. We knew we had film 1 done, and we had film 2 in post-production. We knew that we were really trying to sample the idea of what people were going to bite at the market for film number 3 for us. And that's where we kind of went with a couple of options, a couple of pitch decks, and we were running through these presentations, and one just naturally emerged. That has, for us, become film number 3, and that's where we are right now, moving into active pre-production for a $5 million film that's set to be filming in Q1 of 27. So we have we have a lot of work to do before then. But the reason that I think that's really important for your listeners is maybe they don't have a film for sale, but they might have ideas to run through. It's good to have a couple, so then you know what the market is interested in, where the interest is going. Having a compare and contrast, I think, is absolutely essential.
Absolutely, yeah. But
going back to that idea that it's very heady stuff, you've got to anchor yourself into what it really is. And I always get this flea market concept of, who's got a film for sale? I've got a film for sale. Like you're hawking fish across the field. The reality is that is what it is. It's buying and selling films, and all films matter, and all films are looking for home. And there's distribution companies around the planet that are fighting to get enough films in their library to make money. So that's it.
Is it a bunch of is it like a conference hall with booths and stuff? Like what is the landscape?
It's a little bit of everything. Yeah. Okay. So you've got your main level, usually centered around a bar. But then there's, tables where some people, that's where they have their meetings. They buy the pass to where they just do their meetings right there, and that's sufficient. And that's not out of the norm of what we did last year. We went into it having said meetings set up, and so we knew exactly what we wanted to do on that front. But we were meeting these distributors in their space, and then afterwards we would just kind of mingle, down in the main area. If there's another floor below, that's usually where you see a lot of the any states that's representing, so Kentucky or Alabama or Florida or the Cayman Islands, all around the world where they want you to come film, and you can talk to them about the incentives and get information about that said location. Mm-hmm. They had an AI area, so, because what's happening in that space with AI, they had a little booth with 5 or 6 different reps in there as well. And then each floor is a mix of buyers and sellers. And so, we were on the 4th floor right off the elevator, great real retail space. And we were sharing it with Shake the Tree Productions, which is a production company that we joined with last year.
And Tony.
With Tony and team and Sam. And we shared that space as an exhibitor, but we were on the same floor with like A24 and some of these big name distributors and companies that we look up to and like really admire. And Tony and Sam and Shake the Tree Productions has a relationship with a lot of these people. And so there may be multiple floors of that same kind of format, right? Where you've got exhibitors, both sales and distributors on the same floor. And it can go up, at this hotel, it went up 10 floors. And so it was
and they go in
500 people at minimum.
That's wild.
It was the Fairmount Hotel in Beverly Hills, and they had, in Century City, but they had gone in and cleared out all of the furniture out of the room.
Right. So it's not just the bed, like, yeah, they clear out everything. So you can make room for your space. And so each room, if we were sharing our room, and so we had a couple tables, chairs set up. We had a balcony if we needed to have a more quiet space. And then you just have all your stuff displayed, all your posters and any kind of swag that you're handing out to everybody.
That's cool. And everyone's there either buying or selling films. So yeah, I mean, like,
well, the first
awesome.
the first half of it for us, which it's largely 5 days, 6 days.
Okay.
And so the first 3 days we were just stacked with buyers, and that was sacred time because that's where we got to meet some really crucial sales agents and distributors who are wanting to buy. And buying is not just about buying a product; it's also about building the relationship. And so we were very fortunate to have 30 sales agents and distributors meetings booked, ready to go. They knew right where to go. And I will tell you, I was surprised. They all showed up right on time. There was no mousing around. They were there. They were punctual. We were forced to be punctual in return. And that was the first 3 days of the market. And I would say there was this magic moment at the end of day 3 where I just felt and knew that we were coming out of this successfully because our goals were multiple, but principally our 2 films, Sparrow Street and the Silicant, need to get a distribution deal and need to be able to get onto platforms around the world so that people can start watching these films. So that was our primary objective. By the end of the 3rd day, I felt very confident that we would have offers come in. It's true, the offers have come in. So we were very excited with that. The back half, the remaining 2-3 days that are on the backside of the market, that's where we got to start meeting, I call them the youngins. I'm no spring chicken here, but the reality, it's the people who were the young directors, the young screenwriters, the young producers who are really going around shopping their ideas. And Billy and I have taken a clue from our own interest, which is we want to be around people who say yes. We like the affirmation. People who are snobby or don't want to meet with us, who don't want to entertain the idea of, being around people who are unknown. Like, none of that tracks for us and will never be a part of our model. The reality is that we want to be around people who say yes. And that's where, for us, we began to realize that I think, while we got our first needs met, it's the next part. It's that co-production, co-pro, collaborative space, taking in writers and directors and some actors who were really wanting to connect and find that safe space inside of our company. And so I would say that was just rounding out what was an incredible week of making connections and meeting people. Not all of those are going to turn into yes, but I think a lot will.
That's exciting. Well, congrats on that.
Yeah, thank you. And we have already had a couple deals and offers on the table prior because, if you look at a calendar year, what sets AFM apart from other markets is that the markets are mixed with the festival. And so let's take Berlin, for example. It's the Berlin Festival, so it's got their whole film festival side, but then behind the scenes, right, is the market as well. And then you have Cannes and Shake the Tree.
We were at Cannes.
Yeah, Shake the Tree, who we partnered with last year at AFM, or post-AFM, took our products to Cannes and represented us there. And that's where we really started to get, and we'd already had some momentum from last year's AFM in Vegas, but carrying that momentum into Cannes getting some deals on the table already going into this AFM was all planned out. Like that was part of our master plan that we wanted to accomplish leading into this market. But again, AFM is just a market only. It's not the Market and Film Festival like Berlin or Cannes or TIFF, for example.
Yeah. No, and that's my goal. I was telling you with South by Southwest. I'm like trying to get my
good goal.
My scripts together and then go there and meet with some producers and just kind of fish to see.
Well, we'd love, and this invitation goes to anybody listening too, but we would love to help you prep.
Sure.
So you can have
that would be great.
Success.
For sure.
No, I would love to do that. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm finishing this script and then I'm going to put a pitch together and I mean, if you guys are available, I would love to just like pitch you the film, and then give me feedback on like, I don't know, basically like what you guys have learned so far, like where the weak points are and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I would love to.
Well, I did want to ask you guys, and maybe based on the experience of going to the American film market, were there any takeaways on how films are being distributed? Because that's a big one that I've even on this show I've talked about. Like, and I always ask, like, how do films get distributed? Because ultimately, like, having a business plan to pitch getting a budget, I would imagine, could be part of getting the budget. So, like, did you guys learn anything specific about like how people are making their money back on film, how films are distributed, and any feedback from production companies on, I guess, just like maybe the types of films they're looking for? I don't know.
And well, it's changed. The landscape has changed so much.
Right.
And that's something that we're learning because we're immersed in this change that's happening right now. Obviously with AI coming on board, but with, these tech companies kind of taking over, if you will, right, with what's going on in the space, it's just changed the model and changed the landscape and what's going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years, TBD on some of that. And so with distribution, with trying to make your money back on a film, it's all about, again, I think, and we think, is finding those partners, those right partners that understand the landscape, that can help navigate that. Maybe obviously have the experience, but maybe those experiences were came at a cost, where they went down this road the wrong way a couple times or a handful of times. And we saw that at AFM. There were a lot of even young distributors now that at one point they were just like us and filmmakers, and they had just been burnt too many times. And they're like, well, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to take the reins and we're going to help filmmakers do it the right way and get the right distribution that would benefit them just as much as it benefits us. Because again, it's a business, right? So they've got to make money as well. But they want to see the success of the filmmaker, and I think that's exciting as young filmmakers to hear and know that there's players out there that want to do that and have that respect and want to help independent filmmakers be successful. It sounds like that really wasn't the case, prior years. Minimum guarantees aren't what they used to be, but there's still distribution companies out there that will offer them. And so it's just asking the right questions, letting them know what your needs and wants, you can call it demands if you want, but being straightforward with this is what we're looking for in a partnership with a distributor that we would partner with. And then finding that right fit, is so important. And again, that's where we can help, and that's where we have learned, but also, again, with that partnership with Shake the Tree Productions to help us navigate through those very muddy waters, because to your point, people are asking those questions, and there's still a lot of unknowns that we have, but we're making those steps in that direction now.
Wow. And there's 11 billion people on this planet, and they're all consuming media and content.
Is it 11 billion now?
I think so.
Jesus.
Is it 11?
I don't know.
No, I think
no
it
idea.
is. I think
Yeah,
it's
I don't know,
11.
it's probably,
Not too long ago, it was only 6 billion.
Exactly,
So,
right. I thought it was
yeah.
like 6 or 8 or something.
I don't know.
Wow,
Let's Google that.
We'll have to check.
We got to check it.
Honestly, you're probably right. I've heard it spiked like more and more like the last 50 years or whatever. But anyway.
Well, yeah. And the reality is that they all are consuming content. America and its and English-speaking films are still really big commodities, and there are international markets that romanticize the possibility of filming an English spoken film in their country as a film that they produce. So Poland, for instance, really is one of our emerging partners. And when I say Poland, I mean the whole country of Poland wants us to be a partner and participant in their filmmaking experience.
Wow.
There was nothing more appealing to them than the idea that we would go to Poland and film. And we're working this out, by the way. We would go to Poland to film, but make it an English-speaking Polish film. And that simply just brings such a resonance of possibilities, because America, English-speaking countries have a real long legacy of films that are in the zeitgeist. And so, Latin America is emerging as one of the fastest, if not the fastest growing market. Understanding those nuances on an international stage, I think, is really crucial to understanding it. But we have AVOD, we have TVOD, we have SVOD, we have theatrical release. People are still wanting Blu-ray as collector's items. DVD is still a force.
Really? All right.
All of these are the multiple channels upon which you can entertain and engage. I think the key is to have a film that is complete, ready to go, and then you start working inside of that space to find the right distributor, as Billy was saying.
Did you guys get any feedback on, like, I don't know, budgets maybe? Like, okay, like if you're making a horror film, or for your first time director, I've heard that a lot throughout my life. It's just like, oh, if you're a first time director, you're probably, like $500,000 is the biggest budget you're going to get because no one's going to take a risk on you or something. Like, but in terms of distribution, I feel like I've heard that lately in because some films might just end up on those, like the TVOD, where it's like you pay $5 to watch the film kind of thing.
Transactional.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Were there any feedback like that? Like in terms of like, oh, it's got to be under this budget for you to make a profit, or I don't know, any advice for people making a film, like parameters that they ought to work within?
Yeah, obviously, if and this is why we love the horror space. I mean, I'm a big fan of horror, number one. It's something I've always enjoyed, even as a little kid, growing up in that space. But it allows you to have a little more freedom, right, and flexibility. You don't have to have name actors. If the story's meaty and good, even on a lower budget, it can be a big success. And we've seen that many a times in the horror genre.
Totally.
There's numerous films that are very low budget that have done very, very well on the distribution side. And so, again, if you're wanting to bring in named actors and bring in somebody that is going to draw people to either the theater or to watch the film on any of those other platforms, that comes with a cost, right? And so that's going to raise your budget, obviously. But it depends. If you're shooting a horror genre, right, you do have that flexibility to have a lower budget film and play in those spaces that are much lower, under $1 million, let's say, or even under 500,000. And it gives you that freedom to do that. And in our first two films, we've seen that success. Our first two films were lower budget, micro budget films. We don't have name talent, in them, but the talent and the actors were amazing. The stories were meaty. We shopped them around to film festivals and won some accolades, which helped, as we went into these talks with distributors to see that, we did our due diligence, both nationally and internationally, to shop it around, or not shop it around, but to submit it to film festivals and, win some awards to help us have a little more I don't know.
Negotiation at the table.
Yeah, at the table.
Yeah, a little credibility going into the conversation.
Oh, and that does matter.
Yeah,
and
totally.
we put a lot and poured a lot into the film festival circuit for ourselves as part of our marketing strategy, and that has worked. But I would say what we were hearing at the market last year was kind of echoed at this year, is that sweet spot between 1 to 3 or 2 to 4 million is a good zone, because you can still drive high quality outcomes and maybe even have a name. That seems to be important. while at the same time not giving up the farm in terms of overruns and production costs that will drive it completely out of the realm of the ability to make money. And we are seeing that happening for Marvel. They're really struggling making back their earnings on films that people are just not really wanting to get into the theater to continue to watch much. There are one-offs and exceptions, but the truth is that making back $2 million is a whole lot easier than making back $200 million. The reality is the fundamentals, I think, are the same. And for us independent filmmakers, that seems to be the sweet spot. But if I had $4 million here, let's say I was a private equity investor, I could invest $4 million in a project, but then I'd want to be able to invest in you with that $4 million. And then what assurances can you bring me to the table that $4 million is not going to just be lost, or that we're going to have a crumbling production along the way and even finish? So the truth is, you've got to build your pipeline, and you've got to start here and continue to grow and to continue to learn. So if film number 1 was $500,000 and film number 2 is $1 million, and you find success with that, whatever you define as success, then film number 3 might be 2.5, film 4 might be 5, etc. You continue to grow and enhance based on your measured risks. I think that's what it's all about.
Sure.
For sure. And I did want to ask, I mean, did people say that? I've heard that a bunch. Like, okay, if it's this kind of film, and like my brother's script that he's writing is like a drama with some grit to it, I suppose. But like, it's like, okay, in the back of my mind, just from conversations I've had, it's like, since it's not horror or, you know, some sort of, you know, kind of genre-based thing, it's a little bit more of a drama. Like, does it really need a lead actor in it? And I keep telling my brother that, like, this bad guy you're writing, you know, that can be something that where you bring in an actor that's like fairly well known or something, that you film their stuff in a week. Like, it's all kind of written kind of like El Mariachi or something, where it's like it cuts to the bad guy on the phone and stuff, but you don't really see him until the very end of the movie. And it's like, okay, you know, you want to write something that's going to be appealing to an actor that you could, again, just get them in for a week. So like, but I don't know, is that something that is valid? It's like, you know, if you can get a name or a semi-name actor in your film, it's really going to help sell it.
Well, it's going to help for sure. I mean, we definitely hear that and heard that at AFM is, you know, people ask, well, do you have any named actors in it? Not so much with horror. Again, in horror, you get a little more freedom, but other like drama, comedy, action, of course, like they do want to know like who are some of the named actors in it. It helps, right? Just having that face on the poster. It's assurance.
Yeah.
Having that face on the trailer, right? Even like you said, if it's just a minor little spot in the film, just having those names associated with it is definitely going to bring people to the table.
And beyond the names, it's also the business structure and your pre-sales. So we had a number of these relationships have a really strong interest in our film number 3, which I will go ahead and share with you. The name of it is Carriage. Cool. It is about a haunted baby carriage that wreaks havoc on a family trying to have a baby.
Oh, nice.
That's the gothic horror that we were talking about. 4 to 6 million probably is going to land right around 5.
Okay.
We are already in active negotiation on pre-sales for that. What that does is allows us to create bankable paper and be able to go out and finance, you know, that, and that's really crucial. So I would be much more willing to give over $1 million to $3 million to invest in your project if you already have the pre-sales and the guarantees and assurances that the film is going to go right to market and have a good chance at success there. I think that is really crucial.
For sure.
It's protecting your investors, really, and that's one of the reasons I think that for us is one of the biggest lessons coming off of film 1 and 2 is that we have a real big obligation to protecting our investors, to making sure that they know what the risks are, but also in terms of being able to earn back those investments in a measured and procedural way that keeps that relationship built on trust and meaning.
Oh, that's awesome. And yeah, and as a filmmaker, and my brother and I have been making short films since we were kids. That's been the thing I've been the most foggy on, but I always assumed, just, from what I've heard online, maybe that you needed that. You got to be able to pitch like a business plan for people to give you money, I would assume. But I don't know, as far as these kind of events though, I mean, do you have any advice? Yeah, I'm going to South by Southwest. I'm going to, you can schedule like 20-minute meetings with producers, and I'm basically going to be ready with my script and my, 12 to 15 slide deck pitch of this film. And just, I don't know, just as an exercise essentially, and see if I can get anyone to, like, producers to help me make this thing, and and also to just get advice and stuff. But yeah, do you guys have any advice for like a filmmaker, like with a script and whatnot, going to an event like this? Like, what would be things that they should, be ready with? Like, even if it's stuff too, like website, like coming into these conversations, elements that would give them credibility as a filmmaker, not to mention obviously being prepared with a good script and a good pitch.
I think if you have time and the budget to put together like a little sizzle reel of your story, and again, with the advancements in AI and what's available online, like, you don't have to go shoot any scenes per se. But again, if you can, it's based on what you can do and your budgets, to have that readily available. Also, I think it's important to show that you have a couple of things maybe under your sleeve. So even if they're just ideas, right, and just to be able to show your slate, because that word comes up a lot, because they want to see what else you have.
Okay.
Because again, if you're thinking of it from a business side, if I want to do business with you, I want to have that relationship, and how is it benefiting me, and vice versa. But to have that relationship from a business side, I want to make sure that it's an investment that's going to benefit me, not a short-term investment, but a long-term investment. And so does said person have a couple of things on their, on their side that they're wanting to do? And then just having that passion, like when you get in that room, don't be afraid. Like, just, it's intimidating at times. It can be, the first couple may be ugly, and we experienced that last year. But after we did it, it was like, okay, they basically ask kind of the same questions. And again, working in corporate America for almost 20 years, and then in education for almost 20 years, I've been in those meetings where I was at we're at the table with the C-level executives and talking with them. And so it's no different, right? It's, again, you're the CEO of your company. So if you think that mentality going into those meetings, like, this is my baby, this is my script, my story, and as CEO of this is my thing that I'm pitching and selling to said distributor, producers, or whomever. And so, having that confidence, but keeping that in mind, I think carries a lot of weight in your favor.
Yeah, totally.
I would say the relationship matters most. If you can build rapport and relationship and make that connection to the possibility of a follow-up, in which then I can read your script when I have time. I'm not going to read it at South by Southwest. There's just no way.
Yeah.
And your 15-page slide deck, I might be able to get through a few slides because I'm back-to-back in meetings. The reality is that if a relationship matters and emerges, then we make the connection, we follow up with that connection, we persist with that connection. That's where the pitch deck and the script really matter post-festival, I'd say.
Yeah, that's a good point. That relationship is so crucial.
Yeah.
And we kind of mentioned that, last year we met some of these people for the first time, and now going back this next year, and what was taken to Cannes, again, these people knew us, right? And so when they saw us again, it's like, hey, Billy Jack, hey, Justin. Like, it was just, that having that relationship, as Justin was talking about, is cool, obviously, but it's good and comforting because, again, as a business person, like, now we're starting to know each other and get to know each other.
Yeah.
Yep.
And on that note, I guess just why are events like this important? And I'm assuming that plays into it. It's like, actually being there face to face does have a lot of value.
Yeah, I mean,
but yeah.
Again, in corporate America, deals are made on the golf course. Like, that's a line you hear said, and it's so true at these markets. You can reach out to these people via email and spend all day emailing each distributor individually. they're never going to see you. You can jump on a Zoom meeting, but it's screen to screen. So being out at the market, yeah, there's an expense to it, but if you do it right, it could be a write-off, right, to your business. And so, doing the right things, going to this market, seeing these people face to face, building these relationships is so crucial versus trying to just do it, in front of your computer screen.
Sure.
It's a much more challenging way to do it. And you're immersed in all these people and the energy that's there. I mean, that you can't take that away.
Totally.
And there's so many other filmmakers there that are in the same wearing the same shoes you are, and so you're all walking together in the same shoes, and you're all trying to achieve the same path. There's just something very special about that, I think.
For sure.
You can go to the market just to hang out, and you'll meet people from all around the world and start building those connections and relationships, because who knows what that turns into, whether it's collaborating on future projects or questions you have that you need answered.
Totally.
It's just a cool experience, right? For 1 week to be immersed in that world of just filmmakers who all share the same passion, and it's the love of the art and the film.
Absolutely. Yeah. Every time I walk away from South by Southwest, I'm like jazzed, and have all these different ideas. Can you guys talk about future projects that you guys have coming up? I know you've mentioned Carriage.
So Carriage, Gothic horror in the $4 to $6 million range. We're going into active pre-production starting, we already are there. We'll be going with a DGA director. We'll be casting. We want to bring in talent that resonates with the project, but also can bring marketability to the film. This one hopefully will be in production in Q1 or Q2.
And of 2027.
Of 27, right? And so that gives us a year. We're a year out from being on set, and there's a lot to do in the meantime.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, and then we have 2 other films after that we're working on, and so we created a little card, if you will, to take to AFM that had the 2 films that we had completed, Sparrow Street and the Silicant, and then it had Carriage on the front. And those were the 3 films, as Justin mentioned, that we were seeking distribution on the first 2, but also pitching to financiers on the 3rd film. But then on the back, we had 2 other films that are in very early stages of production that had decks associated, so QR codes that would take you to the deck just to kind of wow them and show them, again, similar to like a sizzle reel, if you will, but just showing the slides of the concept, the themes, just basically like 10 slides, right, to just get their attention on these next stories. But on top of that, we have, 10 or 15 other things that we're working on. Yeah, we're constantly working on things. And so some of those are in various stages of either early script or almost full scripts, or just ideas that we've written down on paper that are still just, ideas that we talk about, and expand on those ideas, but we haven't really started writing a script for it.
Okay.
And in some of our developments, we are at the stage of writing, and we are putting already some talent to these projects in order to be able to get it across the finish line. There's no way that the 3 of us can create and craft every single bit of this. We've got to surround ourselves with artists that we can rely on and trust and help us get those projects into development.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I would say one thing is take my wife, Kara, with you to wherever you go, because she's such a...
She'll schmooze anyone.
She is. She's so good at
Nice.
at AFM last year. She did go to Vegas, was at the back end of that week-long event. And, I was in the meetings because we had the meetings set up, and Justin had to fly back to Colorado, and so I was doing the meetings. But then I would find her down around the bar in the casino area, just talking to everybody, and she'd like, "Hey, I got to introduce you to this or introduce you to this person."
That's awesome.
And we met so many great people through that, and so definitely take her along because she knows how to work the room. She's
Nice.
such a people person too, and so she definitely found us a lot of people that we're still talking to today.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And something to be said for networking. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like a big part
Yeah,
of it with the
well, it's
networking.
similar to the events here, right? Whether
Yeah.
it's through the CFEA or with MCO or any of the entities here, those events are so important to just, again, show your face, get comfortable with people seeing you, them, you seeing them, et cetera.
Well, and on that note, before we close out, I did want to touch on that. So, from your guys' perspective too, with your production company and these films, and did you guys attend that recent FAMCO event? You did?
Yeah.
I was out of town. I really wanted to do it, but I did interview Shauna on here, and I followed up because I'm looking to try to get involved
Awesome.
for the visibility side. I figured this podcast would hopefully be a nice kind of continuing the conversation of where this is headed. But yeah, I mean, from your guys' perspective, you know, what's your take on the landscape of filmmaking and the film scene around here? You know, in that FAMCO event, and then also like Sundance, is that on your guys' radar at all?
Yeah, so FAMCO, I'm very excited about it. Like I'm a big fan of Shauna and the CFEA.
Totally.
They've helped us in so many ways in our 5 years of what we're doing in film and with FAMCO.
Yeah,
absolutely. C Film Center, Denver Film Society, like everybody has just been so supportive and so beneficial to our journey. And I can't say thank you enough to everybody. But FAMCO and what Shauna and the people there at that first meeting, what we're trying to do is the exact thing that needs to be done here in Colorado, right? It's finally starting to take shape.
Yeah.
We're still a little, I think, a little bit out of where it needs to be, and that's fine because you got to start somewhere, right?
Yep.
My favorite line is when Dorothy asked the good witch, you know, how do I get to the Emerald City? And she said it's best to start at the beginning. So we're starting at the beginning here of these phases of what needs to happen with these different spokes that Shauna spoke about. So I'm excited. I'm very optimistic, very excited about the future. I think going to the next FAMCO meeting, you know, with this excitement, but also having tasks, you know, associated with each of the teams or whatever, however that's divvied up, that we know exactly what our roles and responsibilities are, I think will be a good thing to take away from the next meeting and event.
For sure.
But yeah, I am super excited.
I'm excited too, yeah. And I, you know, am blown away by Shauna, you know, really kind of organizing it and, you know, leading the charge with it.
Yeah.
I'm super excited.
Yeah, and I think you had thoughts.
I did.
Uh-huh.
And I'm cautiously optimistic about Sundance. My biggest fear is that it comes into town, execs and filmmakers from all over the world come in, network, hobnob, distribute their films. Some go on to win Academy Awards, and off they go, and we are left cleaning the bed sheets. That's my fear, is that we will be left in the dust because we're just the host. We're not considered filmmakers in this market. And the reality is that I think if we're going to make a difference with that, if we're going to be heard and listened to and have a voice at this thing, and it's not just us as filmmakers, it's also our entire community, including the business community, governmental institutions, all of us bringing the very best that we can to say, hey, we are here. You've got to not just film here, but you've got to pay attention to our films and us as filmmakers. And we have to do that. I think with FAMCO and Shauna, nothing but praise to her and her team. But I think that is the path to having that kind of determination. I don't like not being in command of my fate and my future. I like to have a say in that. I don't want to just depend on someone else's chump change or nod in my direction saying you now get a chance. I want to take control of that. I don't want to just wait for somebody to give me the opportunity. I think FAMCO and the great work of CFEA, WIFMCO, and the other organizations and institutions throughout our, including your podcast, that we are all, right now's the moment where we need to start harnessing and being able to stand up and say, pay attention to us. We are legitimate and real. And that's where it's going to grow from. So that's why I'm optimistic, because I think that's happening.
I agree. Yeah. I think the timing with the FAMCO initiative and everything that's going on is perfect. And by the time Sundance does come here, we got like this event, it's like we got to be ready to have that conversation. And and kind of when they come and go, still stand on our 2 feet as a film industry here. So I'm really optimistic and excited. So, but we'll see how it all shakes out.
Yeah.
Well, to conclude, social media channels, website, like what would be the best way for people to get in contact with you guys and maybe even be a part of some of your films and stuff?
Yeah, the easiest way is just to go to our website, to sparrowstreetfilms.com, and there you'll see the links to all of our social media channels, but it also has a forum to stay in contact with us so you can fill out. You're always welcome to email us at any time. I think even our contact information's on there with our phone numbers, so we're always available. Like we love collaboration. We love talking to anybody at any stage of their filmmaking career and life, because I want to talk to them too. And so, you know, if people have additional questions or want to work with us or send us stuff to look at, please do. And all that information is available on our website.
Awesome. And then just out of curiosity, Sparrow Street and the Silicant, is there a place where people can go to watch these films yet, or is that still in the works?
We're very optimistic that in 2026 that will be a reality, that people will have a place to go, platforms to go watch.
Oh, nice.
You can see the trailers on our website.
Yep, I did
those
watch
are
those.
available, but the films should be coming very soon.
Well, that's really exciting. Well, congratulations on
you.
the success of going to the film market and just in general, everything you guys are doing. I think it's awesome. Obviously, it's very exciting.
Well, and thank you too again
no
for what you're doing, because as Justin mentioned, it is part of this FAMCO, experience and what Shauna's trying to do, or not trying, will do.
Yeah.
And what Shauna will do. So we're just excited to be a part of it, and so thank you for bringing us on.
Well, Billy, Justin, it was great chatting with you guys. I could probably geek out for at least another hour, but
Let's do it.
I think I know I'm down, but we're running out of time here. They close at 5:00. But yeah, no, thank you guys so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed chatting with you guys.
Great experience.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, this is Set Talks, the podcast that helps you navigate and connect with the Colorado film scene. Thanks for tuning in.
Here we go.